So we're going to talk about uh, heavy emotions. You know, the kind of emotions that no one really wants to talk about. Kind of emotions that no one really wants to feel. We're going to talk about that today. Because, I used to do everything I could to avoid feeling my feelings. I really resisted intense emotion. I would try to ignore it, push it down, resist it, deny it, distract myself, turning to, uh, you know, turning to a food to uh, change my inner state, try and take away the pain that was trying to come up. I would, try and just watch TV or kind of zone out and just completely distract myself so that I didn't have to feel what was trying to be felt. See, we really have there's this idea that we have in society. You see these messages everywhere that to be emotional, to be experiencing emotions, to be emotional is to be weak and to lack control. You see people talking about like emotional mastery and talking about how they never feel negative emotions, or they're always positive, stay positive. You get all these messages that are basically telling you not to feel like 50% of the emotions that exist. Don't feel any of the negative ones, the lower vibrational states. And so there's this idea that emotions are these powerful things that have the ability to sort of take over and control us. And me being in the identity that I was in, me being I was addicted to being in control, literally. Well, then I wasn't going to play with emotions if being emotional was to lack control, right? When you get these messages and ideas that emotions are these things that will sort of, who knows what you're going to do if you're in an emotional state, well, then I wasn't going to go near them, right? I was like, that sounds like hell. I want to be in control. So I would try to control the way I felt, right? And to do that, I had to really avoid a lot of feelings. And it is true that emotions drive our decisions. That's just a fact. That's human behavioral dynamics. Emotions are what drive our decision making. They've done experiments where they've removed the part of the brain responsible for your emotional state and creating the emotions, and then that person was literally incapable of making choices, making decisions after that. Literally couldn't even decide what cereal to have for breakfast. So we've got a lot of evidence and understanding that our emotions actually drive our decisions. So that's true. But we're forgetting that little thing called conscious choice. we're forgetting who we really are when we look at emotions as if they're these powerful and dangerous things. See, it's true that the emotions will drive actions and decisions, but it's also true that we have choice over our emotional state. We're not taught that, growing up, we're not taught that you can actually choose your emotions. So we tend to get stuck in them, not knowing we have another choice. And when you get stuck in emotions like undesirable experiences, heavy emotions, when you get stuck in those, if you're stuck, it means you're identifying with them. It means you're taking them to be reality. You're assuming they are telling you something that's real. But what's really interesting and William Whitecloud puts it beautifully, is that your thoughts and feelings are not, your thoughts and feelings do not express reality. They express your underlying assumptions in any given moment. They are telling you what you're assuming to be true. They're telling you the beliefs you're orienting from, beliefs about yourself, about others, about the world. That's what your emotions are telling you. They're not telling you what's actually real. They're not telling you the truth of the matter, the truth of reality. They are an expression of your perception of reality, which is distorted and morphed and changed according to the structure you're orienting from, literally the frame of mind. You can think about it, the structure being made up of all the beliefs you're holding, your assumptions, the rules, the way you've defined everything. That makes the structure, the frame of mind that you are looking through. And reality is going on out here, and it's passing through that frame of mind, that structure, and being changed. And what you're receiving is a perception of what is, not what truly is, when we're in everyday living, right? Of course, you can step out of that into higher superconscious awareness and get what's true. But in everyday awareness, that's what we're doing. We're interacting with just our perception of what is. So when we get stuck in emotions, it's because we're assuming them to be telling us something that's real. So we're just accepting it as reality. For example, when we're accepting, just assuming that we are powerless and that's how it will always be. So there's a hopelessness to it. That's when you're experiencing depression. It's a long-term sense of powerlessness. When you accept that to be true, you just assume that that's true. That's when you get stuck in it. Same with, when you're orienting from the beliefs, I need to be in control in order to get what I want, and I'm not in control. I don't have control. That's when you experience frustration, and you'll get stuck there if you accept it to be reality, that you do need to be in control and that you're not in control. Well, then you're going to be stuck in frustration. See, when we're not aware that we have other choices, when we don't feel able to just choose to experience a different inner state, it's because there's no sense of separation between us and the emotion. We're taking it to be just true about life right now. It's like, this is just life right now. This is just what's true. This is my entire experience. And our language even perpetuates this idea that they are real, and this identification with them. We'll say, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. We're literally identifying with the experience, when that's not the highest truth. You are not sad. You're not sadness. You're not depressed. You're experiencing depression, experiencing sadness. It's true that there may be sadness in your field right now. There may be a sense of depression and powerlessness and hopelessness in your experience right now, but that is not who you are. And it's not the experience you have to remain in. It's actually not your only option. We get stuck in them because we start to think it's all there is. We accept it as reality, when really it is just one of many options. It's one experience of the infinite alternatives, and we actually do have choice. We can choose from those other options. We can choose another flavor of life, a flavor of experience. We just forget that we have that power. Yes, Rachel. The language, the identity just wants to confirm the perception we're in. Yes, yeah, good intentions, bad outcomes. Exactly. It's always with positive intent. Our emotions are actually always trying to communicate something to us for our own benefit. There is no such thing as a negative emotion. because none of them have negative intentions. There are undesired emotions, sure. Yeah, I know some that I definitely don't enjoy. But none of them have negative intentions. They're all there to actually communicate something to us. And that is so powerful. When we can understand that our emotions are telling us something, they are communicating something that's true about our structure, about the beliefs we're orienting from, about the assumptions that we are making in the moment. When we realize that they're telling us that, we can use them as tools. We can use even the most undesired emotions as powerful tools to allow us to become aware of what's true in our structure, our orientation. Where am I actually orienting from right now? What am I actually assuming right now? We're not asking what's true. Your emotions don't tell you what's true. They tell you what you're assuming, what's true in your structure, right? Not in reality, just in your personal identity narrative, the way you're perceiving the world. Yes, exactly, Maria. Yes, they're giving you feedback. They're telling you, this is the structure you're in. Right now, you're thinking you need to be in control, and you're also perceiving that you're not in control. Or right now, you're angry because you feel a short-term sense of powerlessness. They're telling you something. So once we realize that, basically, once we come to realize who we really are, that we are the powerful creators who actually created the emotions, then we realize we don't have to be afraid of them. We don't have to run away from them. We don't have to limit them or push them away or ignore them or deny. We don't have to give them power. See, they're not inherently more powerful than us. Absolutely not. We infuse them with our own power. We can choose to give them power, which we do when we look at them as these, dangerous things, or, things not to be taken lightly, or not to allow yourself to experience. Yes, we're giving them power. So then you can experience yourself as powerless to them. But that's because you gave them your power. Power originated with you. So when you realize who you really are, that you are not the sadness, you are not anxious, you are not the depression or even the numbness, right? That's also an experience. You're not that. You're the creator of that experience. So it's not you. You don't have to identify with it. And once you realize that, you create that sense of separation. Oh, it's not all that I am. Oh, I'm not actually cut off from every other possible experience in existence. You are never cut off from any experience. You can feel cut off. You can assume that you can't escape the sadness or the grief or anything else. But that's not actually true. The highest truth is that you always have the power to choose. You don't necessarily always want to. I'm not here to tell you you should always feel great. I'm not here to say, if you feel sad, you shouldn't. I'm saying, remember who you really are. Remember the power you have. Remember you have choice. You don't have to be afraid of feeling once you realize this. And one thing I found really helpful when I was, on my journey of pretty much reversing roles, right? Role reversal from seeing emotions as powerful and I was afraid of them to realizing I am powerful and therefore not needing to be afraid of emotion. When I was on that journey of reversing those that perception, those roles, then one of the things I found really useful was to, it really stems from compassion for self. That when you are experiencing grief, sadness, inner pain, frustration, when you are experiencing those things that you don't want to experience, instead of, well, first step, yes, remember that you do have choice. You are more powerful than them. They're not all that exist for you right now. They're not your only option. But if you feel, if you don't feel able to just choose a new one when you're on this journey, and you don't just feel able to just feel something different, have compassion that you don't have to. I started, the tool I really used was that instead of just affirming to myself, oh, I just can't get out of it, I just can't, get out of this feeling of depression, I just can't get out of this, whatever it was that I was feeling. There were plenty of experiences. Instead of saying I can't get out of it, I would change the language and say, I'm just choosing not to right now. I'm just choosing to stay here for a little while. It's okay to do that. It's just realizing it's okay to feel shit. It's okay to not feel positive all the time. That's not a full life. To restrict the emotions you're allowed to feel is to restrict your experience of life. So you don't have to only be in certain emotions. Once you realize and have compassion for yourself, it's like when you're feeling that way, you can just say, you know what, I don't have to get out of it right now. I'm just going to choose to ride it out for a couple hours and just allow it to be. And when we do that, then we're not resisting the emotion, and we don't start to see, when we get into the I just can't get out of it, then we start judging ourselves. Then we start feeling, shameful. Like, why can't I get out of it? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, once you have the awareness that you do have choice, you are powerful, you haven't yet practiced that power, and you're not yet able to just step out of it. You're like, in the moment, you just can't, you're still in it. Allow it. Exactly, Dixie. Couldn't have said it better. We're powerful enough to change it, but we're also powerful enough to experience it without it changing us. Exactly. Yes. Sometimes we need to feel it. That's another thing I wanted to talk about, is that when we look at the greatest creations of art of all types, music, visual, all sorts, when we look at some of the greatest creations, they were created from and through intense emotion, a lot of which we would call negative, the undesired, the painful. And so once we learn to allow, then we're in our power. And then we can use emotion as tools to create. It was when I was on this journey and actually starting to allow myself to feel and stop being afraid of it, I created I created these new things out of nowhere, seemingly, that I know have been powerful for other people to use, because I've had the feedback. There was, one pops to mind that I create. I mean, it's literally on the topic of emotions. I created a meditation, pretty much to help people do this, to transcend negative emotions, without resisting, without ignoring, without, just really gaining all the information from it in a powerful way, and then choosing differently, or just coming to that choice. I created that meditation when I was actually allowing myself to feel a lot of pain. There was a lot of pain and intense emotion that was coming up. And instead of the usual try and control it, or try and distract myself, try and just, use use addictions to just change how I'm feeling. Instead of doing that, I chose to stay in my power, to let it move through. See, when you realize that you're more powerful than it, and you're powerful enough to experience it, then it doesn't feel so scary. It doesn't feel so overwhelming. You're not engulfed by it. You're able to observe it and allow it to move through. And when you actually do allow it and you stop resisting it, it's like it does start to ebb away instead of, rising. It's kind of like the tide. If you start trying to push it away and ignore it, it's just going to try harder to come in. It's like if you ignore a child that's trying to tell you something, emotions are trying to communicate something. If you ignore a little child who's trying to tell you something, it's pretty likely that they're just going to scream louder, that they're just going to make more of a fuss. Like, why are you not listening? I'm trying to tell you something. And emotions are a little bit like that. They do get louder. They do come back. They don't just go away because you didn't listen the first time. They come back with more force, more energy. So when you actually do allow yourself to acknowledge what you're feeling and accept it and let it be, it starts to move through. It's like it starts to dissipate. The energy is allowed to move through you. You're not storing it up, and it's not building up. It's moving. So you can transmute it. And so it was when I was doing that I had this incredible inspiration to just, write and create this meditation, this process. And I would never have been able to create, I would never have had those thoughts, the inspiration. I would never have unpacked, this process of being able to move through them. I would never have been able to do that if I hadn't allowed myself to do it first. So it's incredible when you can recognize emotions for what they are. They are tools for creation. They are flavors of experience, and we can use them as tools for creation, both the desired and the undesired. We use desired emotional states, like the emotion of our end result. We use that to create, to pull us towards it, to keep us in that inspiration, to take aligned action to create our desired reality. We can also use undesired emotions. Either, go with the inspiration that comes from that. It can really connect us into, it can really bring up compassion for others when you have experiences that you can see others struggling with. So it can inspire a lot of amazing creations that are really of service to others. And we can also take the information that it's giving us. Like I said, emotions are communicating something to you. It's telling you that some aspect or aspects of your consciousness is perceiving something to be real, whether it's a threat or whether it's a warning, whether it's a sense of loss, whatever it is, it's telling you something. When you can actually open yourself up to receive that communication and that information, then you can turn it into intelligence, give meaning to the information, and use that intelligence to see, okay, I can see the structure that is still present in my, I can see what's still present in my structure. I can see that I'm actually assuming these things to be true. I can see that I'm still, there's still aspects of the old identity that wants to control, or that just wants to, that wants to, not feel anything and be numb, or whatever it is. You can use that information. And so you can, it's a tool for actually transforming your structure in a way that's aligned with your end result, because it allows you to identify aspects of your structure that are not currently aligned. Because when you're feeling things that aren't aligned with your end result, it's telling you there's something in your structure right now that you're orienting from that's not in alignment with your desired end result, therefore your desired experience of life. So it can be, it's an incredible tool for creating that awareness to then transform, to then create new structures that do align to what we choose to experience and create. So, you know, a question to ask, a question to sort of remember, a choice that you have to remember is the choice of how are you going to show up to what's showing up? If there's emotion showing up, how are you going to show up to it? Are you going to show up to it from a place of power and truth, knowing that you are still powerful, you are still connected to the infinite, all options are still available? Are you going to show up and welcome it in? Like, sure, tell me what you want to tell me. Let's listen, let's hear, let's learn, let's take this feedback so that we can know the next obvious action to take to move us in the direction of our desired end results. So they are so powerful. Yeah, put it on your wall. How are you going to show up to what's showing up? Yes, Maria. Know that it's okay to feel it as part of the experience and release it. Yeah, it's okay to feel it. It's okay to stay in that experience. It's also okay to let it go and choose something different. It's all okay. And we don't have to force. We don't have to force. We don't have to control. We don't have to force. Like once you really see emotions for what they are, embrace them as tools, recognize that they are not more powerful than you. You know, you created the structure and you created your body that created the chemicals that are flooding that body, that's producing that experience of emotions. You created all that. And you're going to say the emotions are more powerful than you? No, you created what's creating it. You're so powerful. So when you see, when you're really just centered in truth, the truth of who you are and the truth of your potential, in fact, you're connected to infinite possibilities, infinite experiences. When you see that, it takes all the power out of emotions. It takes all the fear away from it. It's like everything drops away and you can dance with them. You can, you know, if it's showing up, sure, let's dance. But as Dixie says, I'm going to lead the dance. Staying in that orientation of being the predominant creator. You know, emotions, they can tell you when you've reverted back to your old identity or old structure. You're not in the creative orientation. So then you can realize, okay, I'm not in the creative orientation. Now I can choose to get back into it. If you hadn't accepted and acknowledged the emotion that was out of alignment, how would you have known? How would you have known that you're not in the creative orientation? You know, inner states, your inner experience is feminine action. Our action tells us the structure we're in. So listen to it. Yes, choose when to leave the dance. Exactly. Choose when you want a new partner, right? You know, actually, I want to dance with peace now. Or I want to dance with joy, whatever it is. So how's this landing? What are you guys getting from this? And is this helping with pretty much your your perspective on heavy emotions, all emotions, particularly the heavy ones, right? So, another point that's really interesting to remember is that, undesired emotions, they are what create the contrast to our desired experience. It's sometimes part of knowing what you do want and what you're going to choose is also knowing and having the experience of what you don't want. If you never experienced anything different, how would you know what you really want? How would you be in true choice? You couldn't be if you didn't know anything but one choice, right? And it'd be a bit boring if you only had one experience, right? Or just a short range of experience. That's why, although it can at first feel like a good choice to choose numbness over emotion, after a while, that too becomes unbearable. There was a while when I was choosing that, really just in a real state of numbness. And yeah, numbness can feel suffocating. Yeah, there was a while when I was in that, and I knew there were a lot of pain trying to come up, but I would still just kind of dissociate from it. There was a really interesting lyric from a song that kept sort of coming to mind. It felt so poignant, kind of really got through to me. And the lyric was, "Are you going to become invisible, or are you going to learn to fly?" And for me, it particularly resonated because I was shrinking. I was starving myself. So I was getting smaller and smaller. I was like, do I want to become invisible? Is that where I'm going? But also you can see how it relates to emotions. Do you want to withdraw from life? Do you want to stop being present? To resist emotion is to stop choosing life, the real experience of life. So are you going to choose that? Or are you going to learn to fly? And to learn to fly, to step into your true potential, it takes you choosing to feel what's there. It takes you choosing to be in that power, to accept what is, so that you can also choose differently. You love a lyric too. Nice. I'm gonna live, I'm gonna fly, I'm gonna learn how to live, not just be alive. Yeah, beautiful. Very, very nice. Yes, could talk about music all day. Yes. So, it's just, sometimes having a period of time away from the experience that you love can really just teach you your own love for it. It can be a real blessing sometimes to feel separated from that experience you love, to then be able to choose it again, step back into it again, and come into it with the real appreciation, knowing the other alternatives, knowing the other varieties of experience, having been powerful enough to embrace it all, and then come back to true choice. No, this is what I really love. This is what I want to choose right here, right now. It's just a real blessing to have that contrast, the full range of emotions. When you're living radical freedom, you're aware you have the power to experience any inner state, any emotion, and dance with what shows up, always centered in the truth of your freedom to choose to emotionally reconnect with any other experience you desire. So if you really want to live in radical freedom, you can't limit your emotional range. You can't place some off limits. You can't say some are not allowed. Then you're not really in radical freedom. You're not really free to choose. You know, when we limit our power to create, when we limit the tools we can use. Emotions are tools. You limit them, you are limiting your power to create what you want.